FIFA is legally a nonprofit, and this year, that nonprofit is on track to bring in somewhere between 8.9 and $11 billion just from one tournament. Let that sit for a second. A nonprofit pulling in more revenue than most publicly traded companies make in a year. Today, we're breaking down the real cash flow of the 2026 World Cup, where the billions actually come from, where they actually go, and why this specific tournament is about to be the most profitable one in the history of the sport. Let's get into it. FIFA runs on 4-year cycles, and each cycle builds toward one massive payday, the World Cup itself. For the current cycle, covering 2023 through 2026, FIFA is projecting around $13 billion in total revenue. That's up from around $7.5 billion in the previous cycle that ended with Qatar in 2022. This single tournament, the 2026 edition, is expected to generate somewhere between $8.9 and $11 billion on its own. One event, most of an organization's 4-year income. So how did we get here? A quick bit of context because the format actually changed dramatically this year, and that change is the entire reason the numbers are exploding. For decades, the World Cup ran with 32 teams. In 2026, that jumps to 48 teams, playing 104 matches instead of the usual 64. More teams means more matches. More matches means more broadcast windows, more sponsorship inventory, more tickets, more everything. It's also being hosted across 3 countries at once for the first time. The United States, Canada, and Mexico, spread across 16 host cities. FIFA didn't just grow the tournament. They engineered it to be bigger on every single financial axis at the same time. It's also worth understanding what came right before this tournament, because it wasn't really a surprise launch. Last year, FIFA staged an expanded Club World Cup, also hosted in the United States. Industry analysts widely viewed that event as a dry run for 2026, testing everything from ticket pricing strategy to stadium logistics to how American audiences respond to a foreign sport played at this scale. Some of the more controversial elements we'll get into, like dynamic ticket pricing and those hydration breaks, were actually first tested at that smaller event before being rolled out for the main tournament. Now let's actually break down where this money is coming from, stream by stream. Stream 1 is broadcasting rights, and it's the single biggest number on the board. FIFA is projecting somewhere around $3.9 to $4.2 billion from broadcast deals for this tournament alone. That's a record high, and it makes sense when you think about the audience. The 2022 final between Argentina and France reportedly reached around 1.5 billion viewers. There is genuinely no other event on the planet, sports or otherwise, that can promise an advertiser that kind of audience in one single broadcast window. Stream 2 is sponsorship and marketing rights, projected at around $2.7 to $2.8 billion, up significantly from the previous cycle. Brands like Adidas, Coca-Cola, and Visa pay enormous sums just to have their logo near the tournament, because that global audience number applies to them too. Stream 3 is ticketing and hospitality, and this is where the growth is genuinely wild. In Qatar, this category brought in around $950 million. For 2026, FIFA is projecting up to $3 billion from tickets and hospitality packages alone. That's more than a 200% increase. Hosting across 3 countries with far more matches means far more ticketed events, and FIFA has also leaned into dynamic pricing, meaning ticket costs shift based on demand, similar to how airline seats are priced. Stream 4 is merchandise and licensing, and this one has a quietly insane profit margin. Once a jersey design or a video game license is approved, the actual cost to produce more of it is tiny. Analysts estimate the profit margin on official merchandise and gaming licenses, like EA Sports paying for the rights to put the World Cup into their football game, can exceed 90%. Almost pure profit once the deal is signed. Stream 5 is digital and streaming rights, which is genuinely new territory for FIFA. For the first time, FIFA has struck what it calls preferred platform agreements with both YouTube and TikTok. These deals let rights holders stream full live matches on YouTube and partial coverage on TikTok, while local broadcasters still generate revenue and direct viewers back to their own official coverage. In exchange, the platforms get to keep users scrolling and watching for longer. It's a completely different kind of revenue than a traditional broadcast deal, built around keeping the World Cup inside apps people already open dozens of times a day, not just around a television schedule. Here's a detail most fans have noticed but never connected to the money. Those 3-minute hydration breaks added to each half. Officially, they exist to protect player safety in the heat, and that's genuinely part of it. But across 104 matches, those breaks also add up to hours of extra broadcast time, time that can be sold to advertisers. Reports suggest those ad slots can go for up to $750,000 for 30 seconds during high-profile matches, a safety measure and a revenue stream at the same time. Now, let's talk about where all of this money actually goes, because FIFA can't just keep it. Being a registered nonprofit in Switzerland, it legally cannot distribute profits to shareholders the way a normal company would. The single biggest chunk of spending is operations. Running 104 matches across 16 cities in 3 countries costs roughly $2.5 billion, covering stadiums, security, referees, VAR technology, broadcast production, staffing, and travel. This is officially the most expensive World Cup ever staged, largely because of the sheer scale of the expanded format. Then there's prize money, and this pool has grown substantially. FIFA's council approved a total financial contribution package worth around $727 million for the 48 participating teams, with a dedicated prize money pool inside that package worth roughly $655 million. That's about 50% larger than the $440 million pool at Qatar 2022. Every single one of the 48 qualified teams is guaranteed a payment just for showing up, somewhere in the range of $9 to $12.5 million, depending on the source, even if they're eliminated in the group stage. The champion is projected to earn around $50 million, the runner-up around $33 million, third place around $29 million, fourth place around $27 million. Beyond operations and prize money, a significant portion goes toward development. Around $1.7 billion is allocated to development and education programs, including direct payments to FIFA's member federations around the world through a program called FIFA Forward. Under this program, every single one of FIFA's member federations, roughly 211 of them across the entire world, receives baseline funding regardless of whether their team even qualified for the tournament. The idea is that World Cup revenue doesn't just fund one event, it's meant to fund the sport's growth everywhere, from grassroots programs in small federations to referee training and youth development. There's also a player insurance fund called the Club Benefit Program, worth around $355 million, which compensates clubs when they release players for national team duty, or if a player gets injured during the tournament. Let's talk profit, and why this cycle in particular is so much more lucrative than any before it. The total budget for staging the 2026 tournament sits around $3.76 billion. Compare that to projected revenue of $8.9 to $11 billion, and you can see the gap is enormous, even before accounting for the broader 4-year cycle's income from other events like the Club World Cup, which was also hosted in the United States, as a kind of dry run for this tournament. The core reason this works so well comes down to one simple idea. Almost every major cost, stadiums, broadcast infrastructure, security, scales with the size of the event. But FIFA's revenue scales even faster, because more matches means more broadcast windows and more tickets without a matching increase in overhead per match. Bigger tournament, better margins. That's the entire financial logic behind expanding to 48 teams. Now, a few genuinely surprising facts most people don't know about this tournament's business side. Fact 1. Global sports betting activity tied to the 2026 World Cup is projected to surpass $150 billion. FIFA doesn't directly collect most of that money, but it shows you the sheer economic gravity this single event carries across unrelated industries. Fact 2. Advertisers globally are committing around $10.5 billion in spending tied to this tournament, which reportedly surpasses total NFL regular season advertising spend. One international sporting event is out-earning an entire domestic league's regular season in ad dollars. Fact 3. The tournament is projected to create around 824,000 jobs and generate close to $40.9 billion in global GDP impact, according to organizer projections, spanning construction, hospitality, transportation, and tourism across the 3 host nations. Fact 4, and this one is a real point of concern, not just a fun stat. A report from Common Goal and Football for Future found that 10 of the 16 stadiums exceed safe play thresholds for extreme heat, with temperatures in cities like Miami and Monterrey projected above 32 degrees Celsius. FIFA's response includes closed roofs and air conditioning at several venues, plus those hydration breaks we mentioned earlier, which serve a real safety purpose alongside their broadcast benefits. Fact 5. The jump in U.S. broadcast rights value tells its own story. Fox reportedly paid around $425 million for U.S. rights to the 2022 tournament. For 2026, with the tournament hosted partly on U.S. soil and matches airing in primetime windows across 3 time zones, industry reporting suggests that number has grown dramatically, reflecting just how much more valuable a home tournament is to broadcasters than one played on the other side of the world. So what can a normal person actually take away from how FIFA runs this? Lesson 1. Scale changes the math entirely. Going from 32 teams to 48 wasn't just about including more countries. It fundamentally restructured the revenue equation because the fixed costs of hosting barely moved compared to the massive jump in matches, tickets, and broadcast windows. If you're building something, ask whether growing your operation actually improves your margins or just adds more work for the same return. Lesson 2. Multiple revenue streams protect against risk. FIFA doesn't rely on any single source. Broadcasting, sponsorship, ticketing, and merchandise all contribute meaningfully, so a soft year in one category doesn't sink the whole organization. Spreading income across several streams is a lesson that applies just as well to a small business as it does to a global sporting body. Lesson 3. Structure doesn't limit ambition. FIFA is legally a nonprofit, yet it's projected to bring in more revenue this single tournament than most public companies generate all year. The legal label of your organization doesn't cap how big or how well run it can become. Lesson 4. Go where your audience already is. FIFA's decision to strike direct streaming deals with YouTube and TikTok, instead of relying purely on traditional broadcasters, shows a willingness to meet an audience on the platforms they already use every day. Whether you're running a global sporting event or a small business, the lesson is the same. Don't just wait for people to come find you through old channels. Show up where they're already spending their time. So, there you go. A nonprofit organization projected to pull in up to $11 billion from one tournament, funded by broadcast deals, sponsorships, and hydration breaks that double as ad slots, all while legally unable to hand any of it to shareholders. The World Cup isn't just the biggest event in sports. It might be one of the most efficient revenue machines in the entire world, built on the simple idea that a global audience of billions is worth more than almost anything else you could sell. If this broke down something you never knew, smash that like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow. Subscribe if you want more real breakdowns like this one. And drop a comment telling me which organization or brand you want broken down next. Until next time, this has been Moneybruh, and I'll see you in the next one.